Hello friends, welcome back to Liz's Reading Corner, or welcome if you're new here. I'm Liz and I like books, and today we are going to do something I don't normally do because it feels a bit like showy offy and I try not to do this too much. I'm doing a book haul. I have been accumulating books, probably about 50 hauled, of course they're hauled, I bought them, 50 thrifted, so about half of them have come from op shops and half of them are brand new but like deeply discounted books usually. I try really hard not to buy books unless I know I am going to, or I think I'm going to reread them, or if my library doesn't have them. So my library does have Libby for ebooks and obviously the physical books at the actual library, but they don't have, they're kind of getting better, but they don't have a whole lot of horror. Like they have newer horror, but sometimes they don't have exactly what I want. And they're kind of a bit wishy-washy actually, surprisingly, on fantasy, which is a little bit annoying because that's the two genres that I predominantly read. Like they're the ones that I've read the most of this year and in general. So yeah, I've had to buy a few books just because the library doesn't have them. But some of these are just because as well, because I'll explain as I go through them. So I don't normally buy a lot of books, but I have accumulated quite a few in the last, what month are we in now? September. God, we're in September already. In the last 9 months. So I just wanted to really quickly go through them and just show you some of the pretties that I have bought and some of the bargains that I got. So speaking of, I might start with the op-shopped books. I managed to get all of these, almost all of these. I had the first two, the first two books. But from this book all the way through to book number 13, I think it is, number 12. 13, no, I was right the first time, book number 13, I op-shopped. I got all of these books for $2 each, and that was too good of an opportunity to miss, especially given that these ones look like they've never been read, or have barely been read. I think they may have been read once, but they're in very good condition is the point. So even though there is 3 different kinds of covers, $2 each was too good to miss. So I was actually not going to buy them, and then I sent a picture to my husband and he was just like, get them, it's not even a question, buy them. So we bought all of these for $20 I think it was. Yeah, 10 books, it was like $20. So for those who don't know, this is the Wheel of Time series. There is, I think, 14 books, so I don't have the prequel yet. What's it called? New Spring? I don't have that yet. I do have to get that, which is why I haven't started reading them yet. It is set in, I can't remember the name of the world, but it starts in a place called Two Rivers. And essentially there is this magic that exists in the world, but it can only be wielded by women, because if men use it or touch it, the magic will send them crazy and they'll destroy the world. And so there has already been, I think, one world ending, or world changing, I should say, because the world didn't specifically end, but world changing event. And after that, anytime a man is found to have magic, the Aes Sedai, who are the women who wield magic, they're like the authority, kind of like the Magicians Guild, I guess you would call them, they get the man and they take the magic from him and stop him from being able to wield magic. But there is this prophecy that says that there is one boy who they will not be able to do this to, and he will change the world. Not necessarily, I think, for the better. I don't remember if it says whether it's for good or bad. But the reason it's called the Wheel of Time is because the magic revolves around like this wheel, and as the wheel turns, it gets like closer and closer to this prophecy. And one of the sayings, and it has stuck with me ever since I started reading this series, is the wheel weaves as the wheel will, I think it is. And there is also this evil side that is, I think, trying to take control of the world, so they call him the Dark One, and he sends Trollocs, I believe they are called, to go and kill this boy because they think that he is the, what do they call him? Dragon reborn. So he's like the one that is prophesied to like change the world. So it is a very involved book series. It's not the longest that I have seen, but it is 14 books long, which is really quite long. And once I get New Spring, I will be actually starting to read this series because I have wanted to finish this one for a really, really, really long time. So that's the Wheel of Time series. I also got The Diary of a Young Girl, or I've heard it called The Diary of Anne Frank as well. This is The Diary of Anne Frank. So Anne Frank is a 13-year-old Jewish girl who lived in Nazi Germany during World War II. Her family has to go into hiding, which is essentially what this diary is. So she gets this diary on her 13th birthday, and it just like tells the story of them in hiding and right up until they get found, which is really, really sad. But I read this book when I was 9. So the first time I read this book was when I was 9, and I used to get in trouble at school because when we would finish our work, we were meant to ask for extra work, and instead of asking for extra work, I would just read my book instead. So I would get in trouble for reading this at school. So this one's a very special book to me, and it has taken a long time to just finally buy it. I didn't like, so the bookshops around here have like a very, very tiny, it's like half the size, I think, a tiny version of this, and I just didn't like that. So I've been trying to find a bigger version of it, and I finally have it. And so the last op-shopped book that we got is Lady Chatterley's Lover by D.H. Lawrence. So I'm trying to read through more classical books, especially because I'm doing the most difficult novels, so the Goodreads most difficult novels challenge that I set for myself. This book is not on that list, but my husband found it for me, and he really wanted to know, because it's considered a classic, my thoughts on this one. So he bought this for me. I genuinely don't really know what this is about, but it says on the back, the story revolves around the desires and the reawakening of sexual pleasures in the sterile life of Lady Chatterley. Does her attraction for Mr. Mellors find fulfillment, or does it fall victim to circumstances? So, not the kind of book that I would normally read, but it is a classic. We'll see how we go. And that brings us to all of the brand new books that I have bought, which is quite a few. I think we're roughly, like I said, half and half. I don't know where to start. I have 2 book series and then just a few sort of like standalone books. I might start with the book series. So I got some really, really pretty ones. There is... Oh, I should preface this. So I'm going to preface this one by saying I am a Disney kid. I watched Disney movies all through my childhood. I have loved Disney movies for the longest time. And when I found out that there is... books, so there's like, I think the Disney villain books, which I don't have, but what I did get was some of the Twisted Tales books. These are retellings of Disney classics, which is really, really cool. So it's different, so if things went differently in the movies, what would happen? So we have Mirror Mirror. This is the retelling of Snow White, and it says, what if the evil queen poisoned the prince? So I guess things would be very different if the evil queen poisoned the prince, obviously. I also have Let It Go, which is the retelling of Frozen, and it says, what if Anna and Elsa never knew each other? A Whole New World, which is the retelling of Aladdin, and it says, what if Aladdin never found the lamp? So I'm assuming Jafar gets the lamp instead of Aladdin finding the lamp. Once Upon a Dream, which is the retelling of Sleeping Beauty, and it says, what if the Sleeping Beauty never woke? And now this was my favorite movie when I was a kid. One of my favorite. It was a toss-up between this one and Pocahontas. I loved Pocahontas as well. But A Tale as Old as Time, which is the retelling of Beauty and the Beast, and it says, what if Belle's mother cursed the Beast? I think this one is the sorceress that curses the Beast because he doesn't know how to love people, was actually Belle's mother. I think that's what it is. But I guess anyone who's watched Beauty and the Beast want Belle's library. So the library in the castle I could absolutely have that library. I would be so happy if I got that. And the other series that I got is one that I am in the middle of reading, and I was really, really lucky because I got this for, I think, $20 or $24 or something crazy like that. But I got the first 3 books in the Old Kingdom series, so Sabriel, Liriel, and Aporson. This follows Sabriel, whose father is a gosh, I can't remember what he is, but he essentially talks to the dead, or he can like ferry the dead between the worlds, and he uses bells to contact the dead over in like the afterlife, and Sabriel has to take on the mantle of that job because her father goes missing. So the first book is her trying to find her father, and I have not read any further. So I have the first 3 in the series now, so I have no excuse not to continue reading this series. I really need to actually get my butt into gear because I adored Sabriel. I started actually reading this series because my friend's cat was named Sabriel. She was this adorable little black cat. She was beautiful, and sadly she has passed away. She was very, very sick, but I loved her, and he obviously loved her because it was his cat. But the only reason I picked up this series was because it was the same name as her, and now I found a book series that I absolutely adore, which is wild. And then we have the Epic Tales collection. So this one is Viking folk and fairy tales. This one is just a collection of folk and fairy tales from that are related to Vikings, I believe. Nordic. So they're Nordic folk and fairy tales. And this one we got because we were going to, so in our area there is a medieval festival. It's like the largest medieval festival, I think, in Australia. And so we've been going, I think this was our 3rd year, but it was the first year that we actually dressed up, and our son, so we dressed as Vikings, but I didn't get photos of us, but our son dressed as a plague doctor, and that was the most adorable thing I have ever seen. He looked so cute. If he lets me, I will put a picture up of him here because he was so cute. That was why we got this. So I found this in the bookshop as I was walking past. I was like, oh, that would be really cool to start reading because we're dressing as Vikings, and I still haven't started reading it, but I really do want to start reading it. I have a few different ones. I have, what do I have? Chilling horror stories, and I have, what's this? Tales of Horror by H.P. Lovecraft. So we're slowly starting to get a collection of these ones. I love the front cover of these. There's so many different ones, and they all have really, really pretty front covers. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to end up just buying all of them just because they look cool, and their spines, the spines are also, they're very, very pretty. So that was basically the reason why I bought this one. I also bought The Bone Houses by Emily Lloyd-Jones. So someone that I watch on YouTube, and I can't remember who it was, but someone I watched on YouTube either bought this, had it bought for them, or they read it. And I can't remember who it was because it was right at the start of the year when I got this. But essentially this one follows Rin, who is a, what do they call her? Gravedigger. So she's a gravedigger in a remote village. This village is on at the foot of a mountain. So this mountain where they live has a curse, and it's been around for decades. And essentially what happens is when people die, they don't actually stay dead. They become either alive again, or they rise as the living dead. And they are called bone houses. And so Rin works with Ellis, who's an apprentice map maker, and they have to try and figure out where this curse came from and how to break it, essentially, based on the back. So I will be reading this next month. So I'll be doing an announcement video soon, but I'm going to try and do, as wild as this is, 31 books in 31 days. So I want to do 31 horror books in 31 days in October, because October is a spooky month and Halloween. So I'll be reading this very, very soon, and I can't wait. I also got The Third Rule of Time Travel by Philip Fracassi. I have actually started reading this just recently. This is essentially what it says. The people in this book can travel back in time. They can only travel back into their own, or within their own timeline. So they can only travel back to what how they've lived, and only for 90 seconds, I think it is. And you can't like communicate with anyone within, like, while you're back there within that 90 seconds. You can only observe. So the 3 rules are: you can only travel to a point within your own within your lifetime, you can only travel for 90 seconds, and you can only observe, and the rules cannot be broken. But I think I can't remember if it's they get stuck back in their timeline, or someone breaks the rules. I'll find out very soon, because like I said, I've already started reading this. So again, I think I want to say maybe the Reading Nymph got this or read it. I can't remember. Again, this was a long time ago. It was months ago that I saw someone on YouTube get this or read this, and so it was interesting enough that I wanted it, and they didn't have it at my library, unfortunately. So that one. And last but certainly not least, I got Tideworn by Eliza Chen. So this is the second book in the duology from the Fathom Folk, which is just there. This is the last book because it's a duology. So this series follows Nami, who is a princess. So she is a dragon princess. So she's a dragon, and she is banished from her area because she tries to steal something, and her mother sends her away to Tiankawi, which is considered like the sanctuary city. So part of the city is above water level. It houses the humans and anyone who's trying not to be a Fathom Folk, and the Fathom Folk live in the water, and the water is not a very nice place to live. The humans basically look down on the Fathom Folk, and they just dump like all of their rubbish and pollution into the water, and that is obviously poisoning the Fathom Folk, and it's not a very nice thing for them to be living in. It's horrible. And so there's a rebellion, obviously, because oppressed people don't like to be oppressed, and quite frankly, their living conditions are appalling. And so Nami, I think, gets involved in that, and there's like a big thing at the end of the first book that I'm not going to say because spoilers. And we also follow Mira, who is a half siren, I think half human, and she is the first Fathom Folk to be like captain of the guard. So she is like the I can't remember what they call them, but essentially like she's the captain of the guard, and she's meant to be sort of bettering herself so that other Fathom Folk can also be accepted into the guard, but she finds that people are far less accepting than they appear. And then there's also the Sea Witch, who is sort of subterfuging like everything that is going on. So yeah, this is the final in the duology. I found Fathom Folk really middling, but I love the covers for a start, and I really, really, really want to know how it ends. If this was a trilogy, I probably wouldn't have bothered, but because it's only a duology, I'm not upset about having to buy these, but we'll see how this goes. Hopefully this one's better than Fathom Folk. Fathom Folk I had really, really high hopes for, and I was really disappointed. So yeah, so those are all of the books that I bought, all 25 of them I think it was that I counted. I, like I said, don't normally buy books. I try really hard not to buy books because this is essentially all of the space that I have. I may actually have to get a second bookshelf and try and squeeze. I should be able to just squeeze a second bookshelf in here. But we don't have like crazy amounts of room, and we try really hard not to clutter our house, which is kind of a losing battle 99% of the time. But here we are. Have you read any of these books? Have you read any of these series? Do you have any books or book series that you think I would be interested in? I would love to hear them. I am planning on having a regular upload schedule now that I am finished uni, because I have essentially heard, I haven't got the confirmation letter, but I will be graduating, which is really exciting. So once I get the confirmation letter and I can book my graduation, I think it's actually going to feel real, because it doesn't feel real right now. But anyway, now that I don't have uni stuff to do, I'm going to try and upload every Friday. Maybe like some extra reels or something during the week, but like book review reels of books that I've read. But otherwise, yeah, I really want to at least have one video up every week on a Friday. So we'll see how that goes, because traditionally that has not gone well. But now I'm not, like I said, now I'm not doing uni. It's not so bad. But anyway, I'm rambling. I don't need to. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you've made it this far, I appreciate you. Thank you for sticking with me, and I will see you in the next one.